here's what happened. There was a conversation between Alex Hormozy and Chris Williamson. I've talked about them both here on this podcast. And one of them, I don't know which one it was, but one of them, like casual, it was a casual drop, goes, "Hey, have you heard of the 100 Days of Rejection?" And then the other guy was like, "Oh yeah, I did." And then it, like real quick, they just move on. I'm like, "Whoa, let's pump the brakes here. Let's rewind this. Wait, 100 Days of Rejection? Like what the hell is this thing?" And that sparked the inspiration for today's conversation. It caused me to go down a rabbit hole. It caused me to do something today, the day of this recording, that got me in the challenge zone and made me sweat a bit. So I want to connect all of this when it comes to this fear of rejection specifically. I want to connect that to burnout for you. And I want to talk, if you're struggling with this right now, we're going to get into it today, of how experiencing rejection shrinks your chances of burnout. This is Make Burnout Extinct podcast. I'm Robert David Weeks. Here we go for today. The place to start is going to be, what is the challenge for you right now with this fear of rejection? What is coming up? When I think about this in my own life in the journey, and you may resonate with it, is this feeling of being stuck. This feeling of being stuck, feeling like life is passing you by. You have all these things you want to do. You want to make impact, change the world. You want to have an amazing overall well-being and quality of life. And there are certain things for actions that you'll have to take in order to make that happen. But when we are faced then with the fear of rejection, if that's putting ourselves out there, for a date, to find a partner, putting ourselves out there for a new job or career path, starting the business, there's that fear of rejection that is something that we have naturally through human history, that we have to navigate and that we have to deal with and that we ultimately have to face. And when we are not following through on our intentions and commitments that we make to ourselves, and we don't show that in our actions, what then happens for us, and I've said this before, is we start to not trust ourselves. And when you are not trusting yourself, you're not creating a safe environment for you within your body to be able to move through life towards what you want and the vision that you set out in life, or the goals that come up, or the desires. You aren't moving towards that, and then you get stuck, and that becomes a problem. And I want to help you to move through that in today's conversation, be able to face it head on. We're going to dive into a few different directions, but we're always going to come back to the fear of rejection and specifically how it connects to burnout and helps you to shrink those chances of burnout. And I want to remind you, you're not alone in this fear. I just shared it a little bit earlier. I've had this fear throughout my life. There are countless, I could lose count on how many times fear of rejection has held me back from asking the question that I wanted to ask, saying the thought that was on my mind or in my heart, putting myself out there and actually showing my friends, connections, clients, who I truly am, my genuine self. There are, I would say, hundreds, if not thousands of those throughout my life for those moments. So you're not alone. And we don't have to make that our reality moving forward. We don't. We can start working on this thing. It does not have to be our default. And we got to start with the definitions here. So I want to go into our definitions. I then want to, as I said, connected to burnout. I'm going to share some personal stories with you. So, some of them are a little embarrassing. And then I'm going to share with you the play, which is to create low stakes environments. I love the way Chris Williamson puts that. I really like that. Low stakes environments for rejection. And that means creating safety for yourself before you go into the possibility of getting rejected for something. So we're going to get into all of that. Let's start with the definition. I'm going to go to my buddy over here, Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Rejection. It is the action of rejecting, the state of being rejected. I'm going to click on rejected because that's not a whole lot. That doesn't help that much. So rejected, let's get here. It is not given approval or acceptance. Ooh, acceptance or approval. As my generation of millennials, that's a big one. We want to be accepted. We want to be a part of the group. Every generation has that, but I feel especially for the millennials, that's a big one. That's a challenge. And why is that? Let's get into that. for human history, we have been a part of social groups. That is how we've been able to survive, is by being able to work together to make that happen. I feel we've lost that in this modern era of coming together and supporting each other. You know how important that is for me. And it's something we got to continue to bring back into our world of caring for each other, supporting each other, having your boundaries, but being there for each other, realizing we're all on the same team. So if we look back at human history, especially in the hunter-gatherer era, in order to survive, being a part of a group helped us for a higher percentage of survival. Being able to rely on others for hunting, for shelter, being able for protection too. So when you became alone, then your chances of survival dropped dramatically. When I got into my fear of public speaking, this connects. With my fear of public speaking, someone put it so well. They said, look, when you get up on stage and you're in front of a group, that brings your body back to the moment where someone steps up in front of on the town square, public town square, in front of their community and says something. And what would happen is, if the people, the majority, did not agree with this person, what then would happen is the person would get kicked out of the group. And then they got to survive on their own. And from a body response, that then means your percentage chance of survival drops dramatically when you get kicked out of the group. Now, when we come into the modern day era with this, it's different because we have the ability now at our fingertips with our phones to get whatever the hell we want in order to survive. So physically we can survive. Mentally, that's another point. But physically, we are able to survive. So it won't serve us to have this fear of rejection, because we are going to be able physically to survive. And it's interesting too, because I want to highlight this other point, and this is from the American Psychological Association, which showed that, I'm going to get to it right here. So it shows here that, where is it? Oh yeah. It shows that so there was, so it was discovered that social rejection activates many of the same brain regions involved in physical pain. So there's a physical reaction to this. And it goes back to, even in here for a quote here, it goes, as clever as human beings are, we rely on social groups for survival. We evolved to live in cooperative societies, and for most of human history, we depended on those groups for our lives. Another one was, like hunger or thirst, our need for acceptance emerged as a mechanism for survival. Going back to that definition of rejected. Makes sense. Now, bringing that into then the connection with burnout, well, that's another matter, because we gotta be willing to like step out of this a little bit and look at like the bird's eye view and look at the forest rather than the specific trees. When we feel stuck, going back to the problem here, you're feeling stuck, you want something, you have the intentions to go out there, you have this fear that's holding it back, so therefore you do something completely different. What that happens is, when we feel stuck with this fear of rejection and we don't actually do the thing, like let's say for going on a date, wanting to ask, let's say for me, like wanting to ask a girl out. I'm going to get into my story about this a little bit later, but asking a girl out, I was so scared to do that. And then all of a sudden I started to create narratives and storylines of what could potentially happen. One was, oh, she's going to reject me because I'm too short. She's going to reject me because I didn't make her laugh enough. She's going to reject me because I'm not good looking enough. And the other one, or the other one's like, she's going to reject me because we just don't have similar values. All of this, because the brain goes to the negative, like understanding all the negative possibilities to prepare for that. But those are multiple scenarios that can pop up that can then magnify and increase our anxiety that we're feeling of the future, because we tend to do that if we have uncertainty there. We have anxiety that then gets created. Now, in order to create clarity, what would have to happen is for us to actually ask this person out, to courageously step into this fear, face it, and ask that person. And when you do that, you then create clarity because she's going to say either yes or no. So there's only two options that can happen from that, of a yes or a no. I mean, there may be a third. I'm trying to think of a third option there, but those would be the two that would come up. So one, you then get an answer, so that creates clarity. You don't have to then think about all those different scenarios that you were thinking about because it happened. And when we aren't able to do that, what then happens is chronic stress occurs, because that anxiety in the body has to go somewhere. And if we are not able to move it by asking, for me, asking the girl on a date, if I don't do that, because by doing that, what's going to happen is relief will happen because I will have my answer. It may suck. I'm going to get the pain of rejection that hits, because again, it's a physical pain. It's for the similar parts of the brain that light up. So it'd be physical, but that's not going to be permanent either. You are going to survive. And that's important for you to realize. I've had that thought before where like, am I going to survive this? I thought like I was going to get struck by lightning. I've had those feelings too. So I want you to know you're not alone in this. I know we have some crazy thoughts that can come up through, but you are going to get through it. You will. But when we don't get through it, that chronic stress then triggers the response from the immune system that creates chronic inflammation, and that then further fuels the chronic fatigue, and then we're getting into chronic exhaustion. And we're hitting that first red flag, which creates the domino effect for the other two red flags. And we're on that path of burnout. So if we can create the clarity and we can move through that, all of a sudden we are shrinking our chances of burnout right there by doing the act of going out there and putting yourself out there. Easier said than done. I know. I feel you on that, okay? Because I can feel that energy that can be coming up for you right now. I was like, oh yeah, dude, thanks for telling me this. I get it. I know I got to do that. Now show me how to do that. And I want to share with you how to do that with the play. But before, let's get into the context in the story, because this is going to help to make you laugh and help to realize how ridiculous of a fear this is. And it goes back, it's going to be at my expense here. It goes back to sixth grade for me. I entered sixth grade. I did the Montessori schooling all the way up till middle school. And then with middle school, I went to the middle school I was at was a part of the high school where my dad taught. So when I went there, it was a shock. It was like so many more people in my grade compared to the Montessori schools. If you're familiar with that, it's like more intimate. You're doing a lot more things, moving around. There's not like rows of desks that you're sitting at. But when I went to my middle school, all of a sudden it's like rows of desks. I had like 60 people per grade, which I know for some people is like tiny. For me, that was a lot. And I then am having to meet all these people. All of them are new. I have no one that I know here. So I have already that fear of I want to get accepted, be a part of the group and connect. So what happened was I think it was lunch. It was like lunchtime. We were all outside. And so one of the boys in my grade came up to me and said, hey, one of the girls likes you, and now we're in this phase like, oh, she likes you. And isn't all middle schoolers super nice and amazing and awesome? No. Like I was dealing with some of that already, of the little bit of the bullying that was coming up and having to just, navigate that. So, he says that and I'm like, oh, like I'm already fearful. And then all of a sudden I have this uncertainty of, oh my gosh, a girl likes me. And then all of a sudden some other girls in my grade, or some of the girls in my grade come up to me and they also say, hey, like she likes you. She likes you. You should ask her out. Go for it. And then all of a sudden my anxiety is building even more because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do in this situation. And it got to a point where I was so scared. I even think, if I remember right, the girl that liked me came up to me and even said she liked me. And I couldn't do it. I just could not do it. I could not ask her out. I like ran away. I ran out back inside, and it just like I dropped it. And then she like ended up dating someone else in my grade. But for me, that was so painful because of the anxiety. I didn't even ask her out. And then it wasn't until like junior year of college, I think, right, all those years, like if I think right on that one, where I finally had the courage to ask someone out. And I don't want you to have to wait years to have to deal with this. I want you to be able to deal with it this week and start focusing in on this because it's not worth it. Because as I said, there's been countless moments where I have felt stuck and held back. And that feeling, when it comes to sixth grade, that situation in sixth grade, that feeling, we're having that as adults. That specific situation where you could have friends coming up to you and telling you that you would be great for this project or this role in your community, or you would be great at starting a business, or you would be great at getting that promotion. And we can then have people coming up to us telling us, apply for this. You got this. You can do it. But we don't believe them because we're so consumed by the fear of being potentially rejected and not accepted, for going for it and failing and asking for it and we get a no, that we decide not even to do it because we have so many scenarios that pop up in our brain of, am I going to survive this? Am I like, I literally feel like I'm going to pass out. Am I going to get struck by lightning? All these crazy, ridiculous thoughts that bring us back to, for me, like the sixth grade, that just are not there because you will survive. I'm proof of this for you because I've had to step into this courageously and I've done certain things that have gotten me in my challenge zone, I call it, where it's a stretch. I'm sweating. I get the pit stains starting to form. So I feel you on this. You're not alone in it. Now we get into, well, how do we deal with this? How do we work through this? And a way that we can do that is by starting small. I always go back to starting small with creating what Chris Williamson, I heard him say this, I really liked it, low stakes environments for rejection. And this is something that Jaw did with the TEDx, the 100 Days of Rejection. He also did this because, for context, what he did was he would create a ridiculous request in his mind and be like, I'm going to go and ask that request. And he knew already that it was going to be a no. So he was creating an environment of safety, of expectation, which for your body allows you to have certainty as to what is going to happen. You are expecting a no. There's no uncertainty in that because it's a request that that would be ridiculous. For him, some of those that came up as an idea was to ask a stranger to borrow for $100. Another one was he went to Krispy Kreme. This is the one that it had. Just to give you an example too, just so you know this, the TED Talk has 6.2 million views. So this is powerful for a message for you to resonate with this, because another one that he did for an out there crazy request was to ask Krispy Kreme. When he went to Krispy Kreme, he asked one of the workers there if they could create the Olympic rings and do that with it and be able to connect the donuts in that way. He didn't think it was possible, but the person did it. She actually did it. I think her name is Jackie who did that. And it exploded. I think it got over 5 million views for a video. It exploded because everyone was like, oh my gosh, this person actually did it. And she came out, she did it, and it showed how much people care. Like it really showed the kindness in humanity in that moment. For me too, I resonate with that. I'm like, damn, we got to get more of that going here. And that happens when we put ourselves out there and give opportunities to others to be able to actually answer the call of either giving you a no or giving you a yes. So I thought that was just so cool for his story. And how we do this then is you can create your own low stakes environment. So I'll give you some examples that you can try out that could be helpful. One would be, and this is a form of exposure therapy, just so you realize, exposure therapy of facing your fear, being able to create a safe environment where you can face your fear and work through it. So for example, what you could do is, and this is a low level, this is like level 1 here, is to figure out which books in the library are currently checked out and show up to the library and ask them if you can check out that book. Because what that does for you is you realize that this is going to be a no. It's going to feel maybe a little bit embarrassing because you didn't check online, but it could be the thought that comes up is like, oh man, they're going to think I didn't check out online. And I wasn't, I'm not, like stupid for that. That could be one that could be coming up, or like that. They're going to think I'm so like naive or something. So that is a low level. That's like level 1, because where you can then go is to level 2. I would even say this is level 3 for me, which is doing something that is a little bit of a weirder request. And I actually did that today. This was me getting out of my comfort zone. So again, level 1, start there for the book. Something small as an example like that. Because when you get that no, you'll get the immediate pain of that rejection, but then you'll move through it, you'll recover faster, and then you can move up the levels. This is the next level. Is for what I did today was I went to Barnes and Nobles. I thought it'd be so cool on an intercom system to like welcome people coming in. So that's why I asked. I went up to the person working the checkout, and I said, "Hey, like, do you have an intercom system?" And the guy was like, looked at me a little funny, a little weird. He was like, "Yeah, we do." And I said, "Would it be possible if I could something like this? Would it be possible if I could welcome people to Barnes and Nobles on it and create a welcome message? I think it'd be super fun." And at first he like took a moment to like think about it. I was like, "Oh shit. Wait a second. I'm expecting a no." Cause like that's a ridiculous request. I'm expecting a no. I'm not an employee. Like there's no way this is going to happen. And he looks at me and he's like, probably not. No. And in that moment, I then had the pain of the rejection. It was a little embarrassing. But what happened was then I felt a surge of pride of I did it. I was so pumped that I did it. I'm like, hell yeah. And relieved because I was sweating. I was like so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is he going to say? I know he's going to say no, but like I still have all these potential scenarios that could come up. And what I got out of this was like, I'm alive. I'm alive. And what we can start to realize is we can start to desensitize this fear. It doesn't have to paralyze us so much. And by creating these type of situations, those are 2 examples that you could try, like, 2 examples to give you some ideas for inspiration. And if you need more, you can message me for other examples. But you could check in to see like, check it. Yeah. Basically just make sure, do a check for yourself to make sure it's not like super outrageous and ridiculous. Make sure we're respecting people. I want to make, I even feel weird having to say that, but please, common sense here, be respectful of other people and be respectful of certain spaces too. But that can provide some examples for you to try where you're creating low stakes environments for rejection. You're going to get a no. That allows your body to relax in certainty of what's going to happen. But now you then have to face that fear. And it makes it a little bit easier to face that fear. And then as you keep doing this, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And what I want to remind you is this all connects. Your body is the same body that goes to a Barnes and Nobles, that's then going to go to work, that's then going to spend time with your family, that's then going to be working out, going to social events, going to pickleball tournaments or games. It's all the same body. So that confidence that then will come from you facing this challenge in a low stakes environment, that confidence is what you can then bring into those higher stakes environments. That could be the confidence to go up and ask your boss how you can get more involved in the company so that you can get then that promotion. It could be stepping up and being willing. I think of back to when I had the opportunity to, which is what I did with my partner, Adriana. I had to look myself in the mirror and say, you can do this. You can ask her out. You are capable to facing this. And I did it. And if I hadn't done it, it would have gotten awkward because we were, at the time, for those that know the story, we were living together as friends. We were traveling the nomadic lifestyle, and we had like the next 50 so days together as just friends. And so if I ask her and she says no, it's about to be real awkward for the next few days. but I was willing to take that risk. And what happened is now we're in a relationship, and it's so amazing and beautiful for the energy it's given me and the love that I feel, that I'm so fucking pumped that I did that. So for those higher stakes, that confidence, then it helps you to continue to move towards what you want in life. To not feel stuck. And I will tell you that is worth it to move through it. And when you're doing that, you are taking care of that first red flag, because you are not letting that stress and that anxiety build up and expand with all the potential crazy scenarios that can come up in our minds, all the wild things that can happen. So that is my request to put out to you, is what would be the low stakes environment? Like what would be a request or an action that you can try this week that is going to help you to face the fear of rejection? What is one that you know, okay, this could be potentially a no. Most likely it's going to be a no, but I'm going to do it anyway. What would that look like? And what can you try this week, kicking off this week, if you're watching this or listening to this when it comes out on Monday? What's that going to be? And I want you to remember this. It's a quote by Lisa Nichols. Communication is a distance between you and everything you want. I'm cheering you on. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate this podcast to help get this message out of make burnout extinct. And you can share what resonates with you from this episode by connecting with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I do not take that for granted ever. Excited to be able to reconnect again soon with you.